Hello, everyone, and welcome. Today, I'm going to cover the topic of healthy boundaries and how they are a valuable healing tool in the world of family estrangement and relationship struggles. And I'm going to talk in regards to both areas of family estrangement. So whether you exist with periodic communication or if you exist with separation from your family member, because boundaries truly can help in both areas. And I firstly want to address that in regard to boundaries, a common misconception is that they are made to exist only between two people. But this is not completely true. Boundaries are also created to protect us from triggers, unresolved trauma, and to promote continued healing and strength. So boundaries can be physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual. And yes, boundaries can exist between people, but they can also be created within your environment to protect you personally. Now, many areas of self-help and healing involve the focus of boundaries because of that very reason. They are an essential tool that helps us create safety and structure in our lives. But in the area of family conflict and separation, the area of boundaries is often seen as a harsh defense mechanism or as an aggressive protection tool. And this is because while dealing with struggles within family, we have internal beliefs about our role in family that become obstacles to our healing and in regard to creating the boundaries needed. So before we dive deeper into looking at what healthy boundaries are and how to create them, I first want to look at the obstacles we face in the area of family struggles and how they hold us back from creating a safe relationship environment. So we first need to break the stigma that boundaries are bad and break free from the beliefs that can hold you back from creating a healthy environment for yourself. Now, we all know that the concept of boundaries is a positive and healthy thing. And we all agree that a relationship should be balanced, where both people have respect and safety, and where the needs of both people are met. Yet in the area of family struggles, we're faced with one big roadblock, which is that our role as a family member often prevents us from having the strength to implement this. And this is because we can feel our role and our duty involves sacrificing part of ourselves for our family member, and that we always need to be loving, caring, and supportive above all else. And we commonly believe that boundaries are an aggressive stand where we shut down our family member, or we say an aggressive no. And we believe that boundaries are a selfish or an unloving act. But this is simply not true. Boundaries actually encourage a healthy relationship, and they can create incredible safety for both us and our family member. And at the very least, they create safety and protection and peace for you, which will lead to greater strength and healing. So healthy boundaries highlight what are important to you, what beliefs you have, how you want to live, what makes you feel safe, what needs you have, and who you are. So let's look again at what holds us back from achieving this in the area of family struggles. The most common roadblocks to having the courage to create healthy boundaries are the following: our belief that unconditional love exists within family, our guilt from disappointing our family member or upsetting them, our fear of being abandoned or our fear of ongoing separation, and our belief that boundaries are aggressive and defensive. Now, these are all simply not true. So you first need to remove these roadblocks from your mind. Now, I also want to highlight that because of these roadblocks in our mind, creating boundaries can be very difficult between family members. So I want you to focus on the truth that boundaries are healthy and loving for all involved. And I also want to remind you, as with all healing steps, to start small and be kind to yourself, because it will take time to break free from feelings or fear of guilt or old patterns such as people pleasing or giving of yourself completely. So at first you may be fearful and feel very uncomfortable. So remind yourself that creating boundaries starts with small steps, but they are such needed and powerful steps to take. Now, in regard to family relationships, boundaries allow us to communicate and let each other know what our feelings are and what our needs are so that we can build a healthy, safe, and peaceful relationship, free of stress, anxiety, and conflict. We can create boundaries that will ensure we feel safe and allow us to exist true to who we are and live our life the way we want. We can also create boundaries for another out of compassion and love for each other. For example, if we know what our family members' challenges are, we can create boundaries to ensure we do not aggravate them or place them in a position that may lead to upset or anxiety for them. So in this way, we can also create boundaries to safeguard our family member through being aware of their emotional patterns and needs. And lastly, boundaries can be very effective in situations of ongoing conflict. In relationships that involve conflict and arguing, they can be powerful tools to help set structure, guidelines, and provide safety nets for all involved. It is much easier for situations to escalate and get out of control without boundaries, because boundaries allow all parties involved to know each other's limits, stress points, and they can act as guidelines for when situations get out of control. So, in regard to conflict, spending the time to create personal boundaries is also a very powerful preventative tool for avoiding personal anxiety. And this is because we spend the time to pre-think of our needs and comfort zones and what events can destabilize these. And in that regard, we're then prepared for when challenges may arise, and we know what barriers to put in place and how to protect our safety. For example, they can prepare us for unexpected triggers that may arise. If we know that coming across images of our family member on social media can cause us great upset and anxiety, then we can create a boundary that might be not to look at social media on days where we know we have commitments and we can't afford to fall apart. So that's just one example showing how we can protect our own safety. Now, the other reality about family estrangement is that many live with total separation from their family member and have so for a long time. So the area of boundaries may be very confusing for some. So I want to again remind you that boundaries also help protect us from triggers that may cause us to revisit past trauma and hurt. We can create boundaries that help protect our emotional stability, such as staying away from social media in the last example I used, or even asking people to refrain from talking about sensitive topics. So boundaries can also help us prepare for future attempts and communication or contact, because we can start to plan and be prepared for how we would handle a situation and what our comfort zone would involve and what boundaries we may need to ensure a safe environment. Boundaries can also prepare us for what to do if future situations don't go as planned, as they help us create safety nets for what we would do if our emotional safety were threatened. So now let's look at the different ways that boundaries can exist. Boundaries can exist in various forms, and these can be physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual. And each is different and allows us to address different personal needs. Now, physical boundaries not only relate to our body, but also our personal space and personal belongings. They are easy to identify and easy to define. In regard to our physical body, they define clearly what is allowed and what is not allowed. So in regard to how we want to be touched, engage in physical contact, sexual limitations, and safety from both physical and sexual abuse. In regard to our personal space and belongings, they involve protecting our physical comfort zone, when and how people enter our personal space, our privacy and personal details, and also our physical identity, such as bank accounts, legal will, and so forth. So physical boundaries can also include defining how our belongings are respected, such as our home, computer and devices, car, or anything we have ownership of. So examples might be when addressing family members: please don't hug me, it makes me feel uncomfortable. Or you need to ask me before you want to use my computer or my phone. Or maybe my legal will is my personal information. I don't need to share the details with you. Or maybe my bedroom is my personal space, so please knock on the door if you want to come in. These are just some examples of how to express and share what your personal boundaries are. Now, emotional boundaries are different and involve two main areas. They create the space to freely express how we feel and live in keeping with our authentic inner character. They also identify and define our emotional needs in regard to what helps us feel safe, happy, and respected in a relationship. Emotional boundaries can help create a balanced relationship through recognizing the feelings and emotional needs of all family members. They can also help relieve anxiety from being aware of your own personal emotional comfort zone, and also from being aware of emotional reactions that family members may impose on you. So emotional boundaries can therefore not only create expressive freedom, but also protection from external abusive behavior. So possible examples might be: I feel threatened when you raise your voice. Can we talk in gentle tones? or I still feel great upset from our last discussion, so I'll talk to you when I'm ready. Now, in times of separation, we can also protect our emotions with boundaries. We can create boundaries that protect how we think of our situation, the time we allocate to our situation, and boundaries that create emotional distractions such as self-care activities. So again, boundaries are not just to be used between people, but also to create a safe environment around ourselves. Now, next we have mental boundaries, which help create a balanced environment where all thoughts and opinions are respected. They focus on our deeper thoughts and values and establish an environment where there is shared respect for each other's individuals' thoughts, values, ideas, and opinions. And it also creates the tools needed to give voice to your thoughts and values so that others can be reminded of them and give them the recognition and respect they deserve. So examples of these might be, thank you for your advice, but I enjoy making my own decisions. Or my opinions are different from yours, and I like the values I have. I have ideas and plans that are different to yours, and I'll let you know if I need help. Now, again, we don't have to engage in aggressive communication. We can gently share our values and beliefs with another so that all views are respected. Now, the last type of boundary is spiritual boundaries. And this is different. This extends past emotional and mental areas and includes our deeper values concerning spiritual matters, our calling in life, matters of the soul, and our life purpose. So these boundaries involve and protect our deep spirituality and the core of who we are at a soulful level. So examples might be, my religious views are different from yours, and I enjoy my personal beliefs about spirituality. Or my beliefs and passions and what I do with my life are my decision. And again, these boundaries can exist in family situations where there is separation between family members. These can be statements we make to ourselves so that we can heal from past injustices and reclaim our strength. Often we need to strengthen our self-worth and create boundaries that we've always needed, but they've never been there and we've never given them to ourselves. So these are the main common areas of personal boundaries: physical boundaries, emotional boundaries, mental boundaries, and spiritual boundaries. But I want to stress that it doesn't matter so much about labels. It's more important to realize that boundaries help nurture all areas of personal life, existence, and health. We can create boundaries to protect and support all parts of our environment and ourselves. And for this reason, boundaries are an essential tool for communicating with others as they help identify and show others who we are and how we live our life. Now, the other essential need for boundaries in family conflict and relationship struggles is because boundaries give strength to our core feelings and needs. They most importantly help us become aware of our own needs so that we can take ownership of them and communicate and share these with our family. And by doing this, we show our family exactly how we feel and what our needs are. And therefore we create lines which prevent them from taking ownership of our feelings and needs and trying to control them. So again, boundaries are essential to not only create safety and healing, but also for creating healthy relationships and helping with future relationship success. Because without the courage to be strong and share your feelings and needs, and without boundaries, you don't give the chance for others to respect them. And you create an environment where family members can assume what they like and possibly take advantage of you or treat you as they believe acceptable. Now, here again, I want to point out how boundaries can also be created to protect us in situations where we're existing with separation from family members. When we exist with separation, the boundaries we create are more needed to protect us emotionally from external triggers, reminders, or events that make us revisit past hurts and feelings of loss. So, for example, we might need to create a boundary for ourselves that means we have a waiting period between attempts at contact. Or maybe we need to create a boundary with friends and possibly other family members where we ask them to refrain from talking about their children or grandchildren, or refrain from asking us questions about our family. Or maybe we can create a needed boundary where we don't look at social media, or we pack up old photos and family memorabilia that causes us to feel despair when we look at them. These are just some examples of how we can protect our emotional safety and our environment and feelings of loss. So boundaries are not just between people. They can be put in place to protect our personal space, needs, and feelings. Now, lastly, I want you to be prepared for unexpected challenges and the reality that our boundaries are not always received well or accepted or respected. So we need to be prepared for the reality that our boundaries may be met with resistance or misunderstanding. So again, we need to prepare ourselves for this reality. And I want to remind everyone of the truth that other people's reactions are something we cannot control. So when you are communicating boundaries with others, it is very important that you don't have expectations about how your family member will respond, and also that you don't think about how they should respond. Now, if you wrote a letter or an email, or if you sent a text message, also be prepared that you may not get a reply or an acknowledgement, or your attempt at communication may not be recognized. If this happens, still be proud of yourself that you peacefully attempted contact and you voiced your needs and honored your feelings, because this is a huge healing step personally, and it should not be ignored, whether it's recognized or not. Now, in regard to possible feedback, if you do get feedback, remain open and non-judgmental, and be prepared to accept their reaction. And remember to stay focused on your needs, and that your boundary is not to cause conflict, but it's to honor your needs and safety. So if your boundary is not received well, remind yourself that others have their own emotional reactions and needs, and that they view things from their own understanding. You might need to repeat your boundary and let them know that you accept that they may not agree with your boundary, but you have created it based on how you feel and what you need. So let them know that your boundary is not an attack, it's not a criticism, but it's a reflection on how you feel and what you need, and you would like to keep this boundary in your life. Or maybe your family member or your friend, they may have mixed feelings and they actually want to discuss your boundary further. Now, you have the freedom to negotiate or try to collaborate with your family member if you wish, and if you feel like you're in a position to do so and you feel safe to do so. And also remember that boundaries are not set in stone, and they are a personal thing. So you get to decide if you will alter them, or if they need to remain as they are, or if you can be flexible. So in regard to how boundaries are received, we need to most importantly remember to not have expectations, and remember that we cannot control the reactions of others. But as with all areas of communication and family struggles, different views and opinions are a normal and natural occurrence. So we have to deal with this as it arises and not avoid them. And if we can help it, and if we have the opportunity, I want to encourage everyone that we should also not avoid sharing our boundaries with others. Because remember that we can't expect others to know of our boundaries if we don't voice them. We can't expect others to automatically recognize and respect our feelings and needs if we keep them suppressed. So I encourage you to consider being open to sharing your boundaries as you feel safe and comfortable doing so. And a good way to ensure we feel comfortable with sharing our boundaries is to create boundaries with the honest intention and focus of creating a healthy and safe environment for all, and then communicating these boundaries in a compassionate and peaceful way, and with an open mind to be adaptive and flexible. Now, remember that boundaries are intended to be used for creating healthy, safe environments and not for creating conflict. So that was a very quick overview of how boundaries can be a very important healing tool. But I hope it's a guide to start you down the path of creating a healthier existence, one where boundaries help you gain strength and confidence, help set up a protective and safe environment, nurture your true self, help build balanced and healthy relationships, and help you regain authority and power over your life. Now, I also share more focused steps throughout our website and also in my online course. So if you feel it's needed, please stay connected and dive deeper if you feel you need to. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I look forward to our next discussion. Love to everyone, and have a wonderful week.